Hello, everyone. Welcome to another episode of Bikini and the Brain. I'm here with the lovely Ashley Cotwasser. She doesn't want any.
It's okay. You can do it. There you go. I would not want to take Adam's fun away.
It's my one joy that
yes,
I have
I know.
on our Monday. I look forward to that every
It's what
week.
keeps him going.
Let the boy have his
keeps
charm.
him going. So let him have his fun.
Let the boy have his charm. I only got one button I use on this thing.
Goodness.
So
until Arthur programs.
yeah, we got to program it a little bit. Arthur can throw some fun things in there. So originally we thought we were going to be Ashley-less today.
I thought so too. I did not have a voice like 2 days ago. It was really bad.
Yeah.
It was like
That's a pretty good impression of it.
Yeah,
it was pretty bad.
I lost the voice, and then I found it. So it was actually in one of the cupboards I never use. I keep like the extra Band-Aids and tape in there. That's where it was at. It was like pushed to the back.
The high cupboard.
Yeah.
I got a funny high cupboard story. I want to tell it. Funny high cupboard story. So Kimber and me are about the same height. We're exactly the same height, but her arms I think are like 1 inch longer than mine or something. Mm-hmm. And so she puts these shaker cups like in the top. She doesn't know this. She's gonna look at this and laugh. She puts the shaker cups like right at the very top cupboard. We have these like really high cupboards at the house, and they're like just tall enough where she can get them, but they're just far enough away from me where when I try to get them, I'm just knocking them down because they're like I can't get my fingers. Like she's like an inch taller than me. That inch is everything, and I'm just knocking them over. And I'm embarrassed to embarrassed to tell her, "Hey, you put the cups up too high for me." Now the whole world knows. It's funny. It's too funny of a story not to tell. So yeah, I have shaker cups like fall every time I try to get them. I have to either like jump to get it or they just fall all over.
You know, I have a little stool that I use for these occasions. They're like $8 on Amazon. They're really handy and they fold up and just use it. Either that or just climb on the counters.
I feel like I'm 8 years old. It's so embarrassing.
Oh.
I know, but it's just an arm thing. We're the same height everywhere else. So
well,
so funny.
It gets the job done though, Yeah, I'm glad I have a voice today. I sound almost normal. I'm a little nasally. And if you guys notice, maybe during this podcast, I might go under the table to blow my nose. And that's what I'm doing. So if I like jump out of frame or whatever for a second, that's what I'm doing. But maybe I won't need that. But yeah, a lot of people got sick at the Olympia.
What is up with that? Everyone got sick at the
So many
Olympia.
people.
I don't know how I didn't get it.
I mean, I'm glad that it happened after Olympia, not before. I was taking a week off from the gym anyway, but I didn't expect my NEAT to be so bad because I was sick, So it's like a double whammy. It's like my calories increased, no working out, and I was just sitting around all day. But luckily, my check-in was decent.
Yeah.
So I actually lost weight.
Yeah, I know. It's crazy, right?
So I guess that's good. But yeah, I feel better today. And yeah, so...
Yeah, I think this is every time there's a big show, like an expo, people get like a little sick, cough, whatever, here or there, but this is the first time I've ever seen like everyone get like a flu or something. Like it's crazy how much, I mean, literally 50% of the people that were there, it's nuts. So
I said, Adam, this probably created its own new strain, like
bodybuilder strain of the
flu. Who knows what it was?
But you know what? This brings up a important topic, which is the winter, right?
Winter. It is winter.
More sick in the winter sometimes, right? It seems to be the thing. And what do people also do in the winter, Ashley?
Build snowmen.
I guess that was a very wide answerable question, but I guess we could just keep going with this, or I could just talk about the topic. Because if I asked again, she would be like, drink hot chocolate. Okay. Today's podcast is about people gaining weight in the winter, right?
Yes.
And what was it called?
Winter weight gain.
Winter weight gain. Winter woes. Yeah.
Winter weight gain woes.
And I think this is a fun topic because I think we can go into...
Fun.
Yeah.
So much fun.
So much. I think it's fun. I have fun with these.
I have fun with every podcast.
Yeah. You know what? I do appreciate that you're fighting the good fight and being here and not in your best feeling. Like you're not feeling your best.
I'm feeling better though.
You're a warrior for the cause. Yes.
I feel good mentally.
Yes, you're a martyr for the podcast.
The people need me.
They do.
Not really.
They need their Monday fix of Ashley. So
I didn't want to deprive the people.
You know what? The people are very happy with you. So, all right. So, and also, guys, I put out this Q&A thing because we didn't think that Ashley was going to be here. I heard her she sent me a voice note on Saturday. I thought she just was trying to get out of the podcast and just got some like homeless 80-year-old man to send me a voice note because she sounded really bad.
Yeah.
So I didn't think she'd be here. So I put this Q&A out. Hey, ask me your Olympia questions. I'm going to do that tomorrow. I'm going to do that live. We'll do those Q&A questions. So you can keep asking those questions on Instagram if you're there, and or in the comment section of this video today, and I will get to those questions tomorrow, at least a lot of them, and I'll do this live around the same time tomorrow. But going into winter weight gain now. All right, so we got to go into why first. What are the reasons, right?
Yes.
So I think, start off, there's the obvious ones, right? Christmas was yesterday.
Christmas, New Year's is coming up.
Yeah.
Lots of parties, lots of celebration, lots of family time, lots of cookie baking, lots of hot chocolate sipping. Lots of
I knew there was one
stuffers and chocolates and
I could see the
gingerbread
wheels.
men.
I could see the wheels turning. I was like, no, she's not done.
Gingerbread houses are being built.
Did you do any of that stuff this year?
No.
Okay.
I mean, I baked Hugo some treats.
That's cool.
But I didn't really have much.
Sam's the best baker. She has like all the awesome recipes. She's gonna be releasing a book soon on it. But I think maybe in this year it'll be out. But
this year ends in 6 days.
Oh,
so
in 23, I guess I should say.
Okay.
So there's that. That's part of obviously the weight gain is the food, and then the lower activity, and then it's the holidays, and I'll do it after the holidays, and then it's the cold and being stuck inside. So there's the lower activity, which you actually went through.
Yeah, when you're sick, you can't really move around, or you have no desire to move around much.
And even your normal walking for the Olympia prep was lower because of the weather was colder.
I noticed that too, yeah. Like when it's summer out here and the weather's beautiful, which, you know what, we're lucky. Even in the winter, it's still beautiful weather, I guess. I mean, it's still sunny, but it is cold. A lot of people don't realize that even in the winter, Vegas can be cold, okay? So, don't let the desert fool ya. It gets cold here,
yeah,
and it does get cold enough to where I cannot walk to the gym. So usually in the summer when it's nice, I will walk to the gym for cardio. And then, I'll walk to the store. I like to walk, but that's not really good in the winter because you get cold.
Yeah. So one of the things that we talk about a lot is NEAT, and that's what we just call it NEAT. We always say NEAT, like this term, like we just throw it around, and a lot of people, most people know it because we've listened to previous podcasts. But what NEAT is non-exercise activity induced thermogenesis, right? So basically means how many calories you burn just moving around throughout the day. Mm-hmm. Everything besides basically laying in bed is going to be like your NEAT calories. So even just getting up and going to the refrigerator, that's extra calories burned. Walking to the gym like you did. So when it's cold, most people want to just preserve calories and just sit there and stay warm and stay bundled up. And so you burn a lot less calories. And so that is one of the direct contributors to winter weight gain. Actually, probably the biggest contributor.
And I think it happens too without even like realizing it as much. It can be something as simple as like, well, it's cold, so I'm going to find the closest parking spot in the parking lot versus like when the weather's nice, you're like, I'll park half a mile away. I don't care. So it starts to accumulate, days and days, it does accumulate. So,
yeah. And I think too, that whole NEAT thing is something that a lot of people don't like. They really underestimate what that does for them on a daily basis and how it keeps them leaner. And so one of the things everyone's heard it. I mean, and everyone heard it and everyone kind of believes it too. The myth of, they're like, well, as I got older, I just started gaining weight when I got older. Oh, I'm, 30 now. Oh, I'm 40 now. Or I'm whatever. Right. And it's a lot different than when I was a teenager. And I'm like, well, there's no physiological reason why you just store more body fat as you're older. There's nothing that like happens where you just store body fat because now you're 40 than when you were 20. But the difference is there's two like main reasons for that. One of them is your NEAT is significantly down from when you're as you get older, So, I mean, you could just think of it as like in the work field, right? Like even I can just give you an example of my work, right? I was a personal trainer on my feet for years and years, and now I'm like basically doing a desk job, right? And as you work in any, like, in most industries, that's kind of how it goes. Like you start off moving around a little bit more and you get to the top and you're sitting around a little bit more. But also in life, when you're a kid, you're always running around, going out, hanging out with your friends. And then you get older into the work field and then your NEAT is significantly down. So even if you didn't change your eating, if you didn't change your eating habits at all, like you didn't start eating worse, you just ate the same as when you did when you were younger, you were moving around a lot more when you were younger. And then the reason that you're gaining weight is because of that. The other reason that you could be gaining weight is because, not for our audience, not for our listeners, but the other reason you could be gaining weight is that you're not doing anything to preserve your lean mass like you were when you were younger. So when you were younger, you might have played high school sports. You might have played, you just worked out more, whatever. Because you did less of that, you have less muscle, and you have less muscle means you burn less calories throughout the day. You burn less calories throughout the day, combined with less movement throughout the day and eating exactly the same, you gain weight. And then what do? You blame your age, right? But that's not the reality of what's happening. The reality is you're moving less. You have less muscle. It's not that you're older. So there's no physiological reason. There are sometimes hormonal reasons, but you can get that figured out these days. But for the most part, it comes down to moving less, eating the same. Not people generally have the same habits for long periods of time. Like we're kind of creature of habits, right? You're like the same. I feel I'm the same. I've been eating the same for years. I don't really change, but that is the one thing. So wintertime, if your steps go from 10,000 a day down to 4,000 a day, that's a pretty huge drop off. And that's what people are starting to see, like, your weight gains. So
the weight gains, we don't want them. So yeah, going back to like what you said about the eating habits, I will say this too. I mean, I think for me, my eating habits itself don't really change much between summer and winter, but what I'm craving definitely does. For example, in the summer, I will probably crave more like sweet, refreshing items, whereas in the winter, most people will want fattier, saltier stuff. But like I said, I'm pretty content with my diet, so it doesn't matter that much to me, but I know for a lot of people it does. And I will say from my personal experience, I'll tell you this, I don't drink as much water in the winter time as I do in the summer, because this is what happens. Like even room temperature water, if I drink it, I'm going to cool myself down a little bit. Look, I'm drinking tea right now, hot tea. That's an example. Like, I'm not going to drink like a gallon of hot tea or anything, but in the summertime, it's so much easier to get in that water intake because it's almost like you're like a little hot all the time and you kind of want to cool yourself down. So I think a lot of people kind of do the same. They might not drink as much water in the wintertime or liquids versus like the summer, where it's like so easy to get your gallon in, because it's cool and refreshing. And I know a lot of people do often struggle too with like different types of cravings itself. They want something heartier and saltier perhaps and fattier because it's kind of like cozy, warm, right? Rather than light and refreshing. Like most people don't crave watermelon in the wintertime, for example, right? They might crave like, oh, I want like beef stew or something, Yeah.
No, that actually makes a lot of sense too. Mm-hmm. It's funny because you bring up you follow on a topic that is seldom discussed, but it's just part of like the human body. But when, if someone gets stuck like in a plateau, and you find that they're sleeping with like really hot temperatures, one of the tricks, like these are like advanced tricks these guys use, is actually like lowering their sleeping temperatures because they'll burn more calories when they're colder. Isn't that crazy? So I wonder, and this is not just me thinking out loud here, I wonder if you drinking less water because you're colder or wetter already is because it's lowering your body's, making it harder for your body's like temperature to maintain. And you're going to be burning more calories because of that. And I wonder if that has anything to do with like just that, like the regularity of that.
Well, I think like we live in such controlled environments though, like we can adjust the heat, but yeah, that's a good point though. I guess it depends on what you're doing. Like, are you outside working or you gotta go outside at any point, or are you staying inside all day? Who knows?
Yeah. So, I wonder if the NEAT has to do with just calorie preservation and you trying to stay warmer. Cause I wonder if that's anything like just natural, like I always think, I never try to think of things as like just what's happening. I try to think of why it's happening, And I always think back, okay, how are we designed? And I always think, 200, 300 years ago, we were all just trying to stay warm, right? And now it's not a concern. We're like, oh, it's warm. Hit your phone. Like I literally, it's on my phone, turn the heat up. Like how lucky are we, right? Before, like some guy had to go find wood in the winter, like chop it down, like light a fire inside. Like it's like a whole thing, right? Mm-hmm. But so I wonder if that's just how we're still programmed, right? We just are naturally programmed. Okay, hey, it's wintertime. I want to bundle up and stay moving less and not drink as much water because that cools me down. And it's this like natural thing that we do. Mm-hmm. And then therefore you burn less calories, but then our eating habits don't change because we're not going to change our eating habits. Like no one's going to be like, oh, I'm going to eat less now because it's winter, even though we're kind of, because if you think about it, we're probably all programmed to eat less during winter because there's less food available when we're talking 300 years plus ago, right?
Yeah.
But we're not doing it. So I wonder, it's kind of cool. This brings up a whole nother fun topic.
Totally.
Yeah.
And another thing to note too is like if you're, not moving around as much, and let's assume you're spending more time at home rather than the outdoors, hanging out with your friends or whatever, when you're at home all day, you can get the boredom cravings, right? So I think a lot of people will eat more out of boredom in the wintertime because there's not as much to do. I mean, what are you going to do after 5 p.m. and it's dark outside? Yeah. You're probably inside just watching TV. And when you're at home doing nothing, probably going to eat.
Yeah.
More.
I don't know what's up with the boredom munchies, but that's a real thing, right? Yeah. You know what else is a real thing? It's the munchies. This is a funny one because it's so dumb, but we all do it. It's the munchies while we're waiting for our food to be cooked. And usually most of us is like waiting. Like we're so impatient. We're like such like, I mean, I'm only saying this out loud because I do it, so we're such impatient people. Like it'll be like literally like 2 minutes to warm up food, but then you'll like eat a snack while you're waiting for it. You're like what? Have
appetizer.
I mean, yeah, I know, right? I'm like, and I'll do it, and I'll look at myself like, dude, have some self control. What are you're gonna eat in 90 seconds? Like, like it's so pathetic. But I do it. So if I'm making fun of you, just know I'm making fun of myself with that one. But thinking about so how do we counter the issues that we got to know the issues first? Mm-hmm. So those are some known issues. I think there's
more issues to discuss too. Okay, so if you're in the physique sport, you're very conscious of how your body looks. Okay, you're very aware. You're doing that ab check, a few times a day. Make sure your muscles are looking nice. But in the wintertime, we're so bundled up. I mean, it's like I'm wearing long sleeves, long pants, and I'm not as aware of what my body is looking like on a day-to-day. Now, I think my scenario is a little different, and competitors' scenarios are a little bit different, like who are actively competing, because I'm assuming you do check-ins every week. If you're, prepping, I do check-in every Monday. But let's say you're not, you're not really aware, or you don't care as much how your body looks because you're bundled up anyway. Who cares what your glutes look like? You're wearing sweatpants. Who cares how toned your arms are? You're wearing hoodies anyway. So I think we're less aware of what our physique looks like. And when we are aware of how our physique looks like, it can be motivating for us to get into better shape, or it can be like a harsh truth or it could be a harsh truth like, whoa, my thighs are getting way too large right now. I better tighten up the diet a bit. Since we're so bundled and just covered, we're less likely to be aware of these things. Versus like in the summer, we're wearing short shorts and tank tops. We're like, more like, hey, I know what's going on with my body, my physique or whatever. So that's another thing to take into consideration.
That's a good point too. I've, when I first started training, a lot of the clients that I would get, because I was getting, when you first start, you kind of start with normal lifestyle people is kind of how you start. A lot of the times I would get people who saw pictures of themselves like on like a summer vacation or something, and they're just not aware of it. So when they would see themselves, so obviously if you're wearing clothes in the winter or whatnot, like they still wouldn't be aware of it. So it's like when they become aware, then they start doing something about it, right? So I guess that's a real thing too.
Yeah,
that makes sense.
Yeah, just like that. And no one wants to go to a bikini or go to a pool party and wear a bikini when they're not feeling like confident in it. And I think too, if you are a competitor, you're probably not going to be as motivated in the winter, because what happens is after the Olympia, there's this pretty big gap where nothing's really happening. And, it's just like a 3-month gap or whatever. That's like no shows. So it's like, not that motivating, because it's like, well, first show is like not till March or whatever. So it can be kind of discouraging for people, and just being like, who cares? I'll eat whatever. It's off season. I'm not wearing a bikini anytime soon. So whatever.
So that's a good one. What I actually want to do is just keep tabs on these and then kind of go over them, like on how we're going to solve them at the end here.
Yeah.
What is another one that you know of? I know you said there's a few that you could think of.
Yeah. So
we have our NEAT is down.
The NEAT. We're craving heartier, fattier foods. We don't really care as much how our physique looks anyway, because we're bundled up, or maybe you don't care, or maybe you're unaware of what it looks like because you're bundled up. You're unmotivated because there's no shows, but also you're probably just unmotivated because of the weather, and also unmotivated because it gets dark so soon. Yeah. Everyone's mood especially after holidays, when you're, cheerful and you get to see your friends and family. After that, some people go through that little mini seasonal depression, because it's like, well, the holidays are over. There's really nothing fun going on. It's, snowy, cold, it gets dark early. It's just, it kind of puts you in a little bit of a down mood, a little slump of like, ugh,
Yeah.
Your mood, most people, their mood will take a little bit of a toll in the wintertime, because let's be honest too, when you see that sun and it's nice weather, it definitely, that vitamin D puts you in a great mood. It's like, when you're in a good mood, you're motivated, you know? You're motivated to work out, do everything you need to do throughout the day and all that. So
yesterday's weather was so good. It was 62. Mm-hmm. So yes, it was 62 degrees, and then I was working out here, and I thought it was going to be cold. And we had our new outdoor gym, and I was like, the sun was out. I was in such a good mood. It was like, it was awesome. So I think now we could come over and kind of counter some of these.
Yeah.
So the first one I think is going to be one of the most important ones out of these is going to be the NEAT one, right? So how do we counter the NEAT? And I think that is pretty critical. So especially if you're taking this physique sport seriously, and here's the thing about the physique sports, it's actually one of the questions I had that I answered. I think people, their actions need to line up with their goals. A lot of the times I get both sides of people. I get people who are like, I want to get to the Olympia stage, I want to be a bikini pro. And then I also get people who are like, oh, I just want to do this, like do a show and just get to the best me once a year type of thing. And I'm like, that's great. I don't care what your goal is. I think it's awesome that you're just taking this seriously in any capacity, right? I'll work with whoever. But the problem is sometimes the people who say they want to get to the Olympia and have that as a goal act like the people who are just wanting to do lifestyle and just get in shape maybe once a year type of thing, or do one transformation. And I'm like, you have to be super realistic with your goals. So if you are that person who says, I want to get to the Olympia stage, I want to be a bikini pro, I want to do this, like you got to understand there's not a single sport out there where people, like if you look at Michael Jordan, like, and you look at Kobe Bryant, how they worked all year long, and you want to be amongst the greats in any sport at all, you're going to have to sacrifice at all times of the year. You're going to have to be dedicated to your craft the whole time. The whole word off season really needs to be out of your vocabulary. If you are that person, everything's always going to be, you're either improving there's no competition time, or you're getting ready for a competition, but there's always focus on that goal. So you just have to be realistic. If you want to be that person and you want to be amongst the greats, it's going to take dedication year round. So even when it's not convenient, fitness, being extremely good at anything is never going to be convenient. So, and that was the thing that they always talked about with like Kobe Bryant and Michael Jordan. These guys, like they just studied their craft and they lived in their craft, and they just were workaholics with their field. So that's just something you have to take into consideration. There's not going to be, if you want to climb, or maybe you've been doing this for a few years and you're not climbing, maybe you have to have some self-reflection on yourself. Okay, am I really doing everything? Not just for prep. I probably would say most people do everything for prep. Probably like 80% of people who compete do pretty much 100% during prep. But in the off season, I would say it's probably 20% of people are doing everything during their, what they call off season, right? Because it's like, it shouldn't be like an off season, like way off season. It should just be like, yeah, you could have a few free meals, but you're still intense focus on the gym. Everything's still tracked. You're still checking in, keeping accountable, staying in touch with your coach, that type of thing. But that's going to be the people who excel, and you see people that pass people along the way, and they're like, how did that happen? Well, I can tell you how it happens. It happens in the off season, right? Which really should just be your improvement season only. So that's going to be one thing. No breaks. Unfortunately, if you want to be great on anything, there's not going to be breaks.
Yeah.
Now, So that's going to be, so one thing. So one of the ways is that you could do that. Well, if you're getting 10,000 steps a day when you're in your in season, maybe, and you're only getting 4,000 during winter, maybe that's something you got to make up for. Maybe you have to meet in the middle at least, instead of getting 4,000 to 10,000, maybe you get 7,500 and you're doing more walking on the cardio. Maybe you have a treadmill at your house or your apartment complex where maybe you're working from while you're walking, things like that. Get your steps in. Make an extra effort to keep track of them. Maybe you're only tracking them during the winter time, not during the summertime, right? So, but stay moving. That's going to be one of the biggest things.
Absolutely. I think a great solution to this as well is I'm assuming we all go to the gym. Even if you do like an extra 20-minute warm up or cool down after your workout, just of walking on the treadmill, that's something. And it adds up, it does help. So although it seems kind of like a silly thing to do because you might think it's pointless, it's just walking on the treadmill, when you're not getting in your steps on a daily basis, that's an easy way just to incorporate it, Maybe you can spend that time, I'll walk 20 minutes on the treadmill or whatever, watch some motivation YouTube videos or something, or listen to a few songs that get you hyped, and then start your workout, and then, do your thing. So I think find a way to do it in, go to the mall or whatever, some indoor event, engage in activities that's going to just get you out and about. So, it's really easy just to stay comfy, cozy inside and not want to move much, but it's going to do you a great deal of good if you just get out there and just live life,
Yeah, there's other things you could do too in terms of your workouts in the gym. Maybe you go through circuits. If you're, needing to move more, you can do through some circuits. You could add some more drop sets, maybe some supersets, things like that to keep you actually more active in the gym. Maybe doing a cardio day where you're having one of your days is just like a cardio day where you do prolonged cardio that day, that type of thing. So there's a lot of options. Pick up a hobby, doing like what you do, maybe do Orange Theory during the wintertime because that's an hour-long class, right? 55 minutes. Yeah. So you could do that. Do a kickboxing class or something like that. Have fun with it. So just some things to think about if that's something you're always going through. Because what I find to be the biggest killer of people's, vertical path, right, or their path of excelling, is always the off season. It always comes down to the off season. And I have, you have two different types of people. You have people who are keeping it pretty tight in the off season and they're excelling in the in season. And you have people who are just trying to get back to where they were the previous year. And it happens every year. And it's like, oh, I'm just trying to look how I did last year. I'm just trying to look how I did last year. And then there's the same people that are like, I want to get to the pro stage. And I'm like, you're not going to get to the pro stage if you just look how you looked last year. That didn't get you to the pro stage last year. It's not going to get you to the pro stage this year. This year is probably harder than last year, Mm-hmm. So that's going to be I think some people need to hear this and really know, hey, I'm going into the winter time. I want to be my best in the winter. That way I can be my best in season when I start prepping and start prepping from a good spot. That way I can be better than the next time I compete. Mm-hmm. So yeah, that's one of them. I think those are some pretty decent tips there. I don't think there's anything else. Maybe you have to make a calorie adjustment if your steps aren't.
I was going to say that too. Yeah, if if your program is under the assumption that you're given that same caloric output and you're not, you got to adjust for that. Take away a serving of fat or something, or a serving of carbs. Consult with your coach. But it's just realize that just because if you were consuming that same amount of calories or something in the summertime and you're doing pretty similar things and you're wondering why, obviously the needs probably has something to do with it. You just got to make an adjustment for it.
Yeah, exactly. And so that's another thing that I think is a good thing to bring up is continue your check-ins, That's probably something I run into that a lot too, where people will just kind of stop during winter. They're
they can feel ashamed or whatever because maybe they had extra treats on Christmas, or they're just not into it. Even just the act of putting on a bikini in the wintertime, it's not as fun. Even when I checked in today, I'm like, I'm cold and I don't want to do this. Not because I didn't want to see my physique. It was more I don't want to be cold. Yeah. So, that's something you should do, though, honestly, even if it's just weighing yourself for measurements or whatever. Do something to hold yourself accountable so that you know what's going on. sometimes the truth hurts, but you need to see it.
Yeah.
Because it's going to motivate you to, start acting accordingly.
Yeah, that's a good point that you bring up there, because I have that happen quite often. People send me inquiries online, and on those inquiries, they'll, send pictures, their weight, their height, right? And, I'll give them like a quick, like, hey, this is probably how long it'll take you, whatever, that type of thing. And a lot of times people will just send me their inquiry, and I'm like, hey, can you send me your height and weight? And they're like, oh, I'm about 150 or whatever. I haven't weighed myself in forever. So yeah, do you mind taking that? Right. And then the next thing they're like, they'll write me back like a frantic email, and they're like, I can't believe it, I'm 165. Right.
Yeah.
And I'm like, yeah, it sneaks up on you, but it's just going to add an extra, that's going to 15 pounds. That'll add an extra, few months to get that off of you. So I think that's really important to keep track of, because people do that. They want to hide from themselves on that. And I get it. I've been there. I'm not above it. I've done that too, where I'm like, I feel soft. I definitely don't want to weigh myself or take my waist measurement today, because I know what that's going to be. But, I think it's more helpful to actually do that and to take it and to face that, and because it keeps you accountable, instead of waiting like 4 months and then being like, I can't believe I wish I just would have done that, because I wouldn't have let it get so far, So like me personally, yesterday it was, Christmas Day. I had more food than normal. We ate out like 2 or 3 times yesterday, like the whole day. Like, I know, well, we didn't have, it was a weird Christmas, because Kimber was supposed to be in Missouri, and then she got stuck on her flight got canceled. So she was like on the plane, and luckily they let her off. So we did like a impromptu Christmas with like no food. And we're not going to go to the grocery store, 10 o'clock at night when she gets off her plane the day before. It's going to be crazy. Like the whole grocery store was nuts. So we're like, we'll just work out and eat and just have our own little Christmas thing. So we ate out, but there's, the foods that you eat when you're out, it's a lot more calories. So like, if you did that, which a lot of you probably did, it's not hard. I just diet down. Like this week, we were both like, we're just going to keep the carbs light this week.
Yes.
We're going to move a little more, do some more cardio. I'm going to do circuits, workouts this week. And I'll be feeling pretty much back to baseline within 5 days or so, but the problem is when you take the leftovers and you keep doing it day and day and day. And then you're like, I'm just not going to weigh in. I'm not going to check in. I'm going to ignore it. Wear my soft, looser clothes. And then I'll just face it on January 2nd. But then that doesn't happen.
Yeah. It snowballs. It doesn't usually get any better, but that's correct. And for you, it was eating out, but the same can be said about like going to holiday parties. I would never tell somebody not to go to a holiday party or, spend time with their family, and on Christmas or Thanksgiving or New Year's when they have a tradition, you just got to keep it in check. And what you said was perfect. I do like a little Christmas guideline plan thing too. And like just basically, following the next few days, we're going low carb, just kind of like the bare minimum, so like it kind of helps regulate your body back to where it was. So, but if you don't, and you just keep going with it, it can get out of control.
Yeah. And I think another thing we can talk about too is like how we even set up those days, because we still have some of those days coming, like the January 1st day and all that. So, what I'll do is with my clients and myself as well, if I have something like that coming up and I know I'm going to eat a little bit more, I just will cut my carbs and fats out of my earlier meals in the day. And so I'll just have like protein only going into the big meal, and make sure that I'm really hydrated too. Like I'll make sure I drink a lot of water that day. And then I just eat protein going into the day. And when I get there, I have a lot of calories to afford still. So if I go off, it doesn't really mess me up that bad. Like the net damage, you want to call it, from the intake of calories that day ends up being like 500 over versus being like 3,000 over, because I didn't eat the other calories from the other meals going into it. Yeah. And then I always made sure I was hydrated going into it too. So
I think that's a big mistake people make, is they won't eat their normal food leading up to Christmas dinner, and they might fast all that time. And especially if you're not used to like fasting, and then once they're like, I'll save my calories for Christmas dinner. And then once it's Christmas dinner, they just go crazy. So I think it's important to keep at least some food going in, and, vegetables, obviously lots of vegetables, protein is a great way to go. That way, whenever you do get presented with the food, you're not like starving by then and like eating everything in sight.
Yeah, I find that too. Like when I do diets, so when I'm doing diets for people, I overshoot in protein. Like the minimum of protein is pretty minimal. Like people, I think, don't even understand how minimal it is. It's like it's like 1.2 grams of protein per kilogram of weight is what's really needed, which is like, it's like a half a gram per pound. That's like nothing, right? no coaches do that. Like no one, that would be you having like, I think your minimum would be like 58 grams of protein for you to like get everything you need out of and you'd probably still be just fine in the gym and all that, right? Type of thing. It's like the minimum. But so it's funny because you'll have a coach that'll give you, let's say, like we'll give you like 160 grams of protein, but you weigh 120 pounds, and then you'll have dietitians that'll be like, oh, it's way too much protein. It's going to hurt her this, hurt her that. And I'm like, dude, I've ran every lab on like so many clients for years, and no one's ever had these crazy things. You know, if you have kidney issues, then you don't want to do that. You want to be very cautious of it. But for the most part, most people can do the 1 gram, 1.5 grams a pound per pound. But the reason that I do it is, one, we want to make sure that we're getting every single gram of protein possible that your body could use. We want to have it available for the body just in case it could use it. Because the minimum, let's say it's 60 grams for you. But what if you have a real hard leg workout and that day your body wants 90? Or what if your body wants 120 that day? It's nice to have it available just in case it needs it, and it can use it to synthesize, and store as protein, right? So, and our skeletal muscle. So that's one of the things that, like, I think there's a big misconception on is like, these dietitians or these experts, whatever, they'll see like a prep coach's diet and they'll be like, oh, he doesn't know what he's doing. He's way too high in protein. Yeah, it's supposed to be too high in protein. One, for that reason. Two, it's not causing any damage for 99% of people out there. And three, I feel like it's the most satiating macronutrient. People say fat is, but honestly, just the volume and the weight of the protein, I feel like that is the most satiating one. I feel like if you feel like most full when you eat like a big piece of chicken or a big piece of steak, right? That like a lean steak where there's not even that much fat in it, than you do if you ate, 20 grams of fat. I don't know. For me, it's pretty fair trade. Mm-hmm. So if you're starting your meal with veggies and protein and then going to everything else, I think you're going to have an advantage in terms of being satiated. Definitely.
And definitely stay hydrated as well. Like you mentioned, have a few glasses of water before a big dinner like that, because the fluid itself will occupy some room in your stomach, at least temporary for the time being. And I always say this too. This is one of my tips and tricks is like after you get done with dinner, okay, first off, please know that your stomach is going to get full before your taste buds do. Your taste buds, like depending how good the food is going to want to keep eating even though your stomach is full, like you're full. But it's like it's like a delay, So I would say this, like just be cautious of how much you're eating, eat slow and pay attention to like, oh, I am full. Although maybe I'm having a craving still, I'm full. Maybe I should stop. I think being aware and in tune with these cues from your body is very important. And also whenever you do finish, you freeze the leftovers, okay? Freeze them. I never like to waste food. I never waste food. Give them away or freeze them, okay? But don't have them sitting around. But also when you finish your meal as well, either brush your teeth or chew some sugar-free minty gum. Because once you get that mint taste in your mouth, you're not going to want anything. You know what I mean? Having that super minty taste, you're not going to be like, yeah, I want some more mashed potatoes with my mint. Yeah. It's just, it like cuts it off. So I would also suggest you doing that as well.
Yeah. You bring up a good topic of like the whole leptin ghrelin thing, right? Of like the satiation and hunger hormones, right? So there is a significant delay in basically your leptin, which will tell you, oh, hey, I'm full now, right? That's what that hormone comes in where you're like, hey, I'm full. There's a significant delay in when you're actually full and when that actually reaches you. So that period of when you're full and then when you actually say, okay, I'm done. I've reached that point where I shouldn't be eating anymore. And you're still eating and then you like leave and you're like, oh, I'm so full. Why did I eat so much? Well, that's why you ate so much, because you didn't realize you were full yet. Like your body didn't tell you that yet. It was going to, but you kept eating, right? And so like that's a hard thing to gear and a hard thing to figure out, because it's going to be a significant delay. And that's where, you run into that at like the all you can eat places and stuff. And I've done it a bunch of times.
Yeah. All you can eat places, I try not to go to those because I feel like it's such a waste of money.
For you, it's like they have a fortune on you.
Yeah, my appetite is so small that it's such a waste. And the thing is too, with the all you can eat, you can't take home the food. You know what I mean? If I order a plate and let's say it's too much food, at least I can take it home and freeze it. But like, you can't do that at all you can eat.
No.
So I avoid those because I'm like, this is a waste of money.
Yeah, it's pure profit on you, especially at the sushi place. You don't even eat any of the fish.
Right. I'll eat the little rices.
It's like it's like
a little fortune cookie.
80 cents worth of rice for you. And you guys aren't, if you're from Vegas, you know this, but if you're not from Vegas, we have probably like the best all you can eat sushi restaurants here. I go to all of them. I love those all you can eat places, but it's so like so cost effective that I don't feel the pressure of eating like so much because it's like $30 for all you can eat and it's like good food. So I'm like, if I go anywhere, it's $30 at least for a meal. So if I go there, I just don't feel like, if you go to like a Bellagio buffet and it's like whatever, $100 and something, like you have this pressure to get your values worth.
Yeah, gotta get my money's worth.
But at the buffet, it's like, I'll have a couple of rolls. It's fine. It's what it would have cost anyway for a couple of rolls on the side. So I don't feel it, but I do see that. But I love, if you're in Vegas, there's just so many cool places you have to go to. We talked about the one last week, Marrakesh. There's the sushi place, Gorilla Sushi, we went to the other day where they did that movie. You don't like it because it's in subtitles. Or did you watch it? What was that thing called? What is it? Squid Games.
What are you talking? You making crap up?
Did you watch it?
I love that.
You watched the Squid Games?
Yes,
you know what? It was Kimber. Kimber doesn't like the voiceover.
I loved that too. What are you talking about?
Did you?
He's making up stuff.
I should take you there before they change it. They give you, so for $5 you could crack the little cookie.
Yeah, you told me.
Savannah did it.
Yeah.
Savannah did it. Yeah, so it's pretty fun. That place is a really good one, Gorilla. There's just so many cool places out here. That's why I really was happy that people got to come out to the Olympia. Everyone was messaging me the whole time. They're like, go ahead.
You know what I like? I like salad bars.
Do you? Are you a salad bar connoisseur?
I love salad bars.
Yeah? Have you been to any of the ones out here, like the buffets?
No, I'm telling you, I probably went out to eat maybe 3 times since living in Vegas. I'm not a foodie, guys. I'm not a foodie. Like, I like snacks, though, but I'm not like a foodie.
Yeah.
I don't know. I'm a weird breed.
You're kind of made for this in terms of your food, like, desires.
Yeah,
You're
but when I first started prepping in my first shows, like, years and years ago, I was very obsessed with food and very hungry and very much having cravings. Yeah. But like I said, I train these taste buds.
Yeah.
Like a snake charm or something. I don't know. But they cooperate. So I'm very blessed.
You know what? I think that you know what it's funny is I'd said that that was one of the other questions I talked about too. Like the people were saying, what's the best tip for getting ready for the Olympia? And I talked about that thing I said earlier, which was, you got to focus on the off seasons, not being off seasons. Mm-hmm. And you have to have the right mentality during the off season. And it's okay if you don't have it right now because it's just like any other muscle and it needs time to develop. Your mindset needs time to develop. And we don't talk about that enough. That's one of the biggest factors. I've had athletes where I'm like, as soon as you get out of your own way, you're going to get very far. But right now you're in your own way. There's nothing I can do at this point. I can't be your cheerleader motivating, like your only source of motivation. Like it's not going to work. It's going to run out. Right. So it needs to come from within and you need to find that drive and that reason why. And if you really want to climb, it's going to have to be something that you develop over time. You're not just going to wake up one day and be the most motivated, most dedicated, never cheat on your diet person. So when you hear these podcasts and I'm saying, you need to do this, you need to stick to your diet, you need to do this, understand that is not something that's going to be just because you said, okay, I'm going to do it. It's going to take time and it's going to take, just like muscles take to develop, your mind's going to take to develop. And I think that you're a good example of that. And you don't realize even that you're a good example of that because you're just like, oh no, I'm just not a foodie. But it's not that you're not a foodie ever. You just have trained yourself to not be. Right. Mm-hmm. And think about it. If you just kind of proved the example, right? Yeah. Like you used to be and now you're not, right? Yeah. I have a hard time.
Maybe we should just tell everyone I got my taste buds surgically removed. I just got like my tongue just scraped off, and sewed.
You know what's funny?
That'd be horrible.
What's crazy is I had a client that had the COVID taste issue for 2 months. And she had no taste for like 2 months or very, very little taste. And she's like, diet adherence was no problem with it because literally everything tasted the same. So it didn't matter to me. She's like, but I was really surprised that how much I just wanted to taste anything again. And when she got her taste buds back, she actually went a little crazy with it at first because she's like, everything tased good, Yeah. She missed taste. So it's kind of funny. It's like a double-edged sword on that one, right? Like diet adherence, no problem if you can't taste anything. Right. But as soon as you can taste something again, you're like, oh my gosh, what is that? So that's a funny, it was a sad, really, human test on what's going to happen with taste. What would you do without taste buds? Well, you stick to your diet. No problem. There you go. We have data for it. So did you didn't really have it though. You didn't get any taste bud issues, right? I had it for I had my taste bud issues for like 2 weeks, but it wasn't that everything didn't taste like anything. Everything tasted like, old, like expired meat. Like meat that was in the refrigerator for too long. Meat. It was terrible. Eating was, for me, it was bad. I found that I was one of the only few people that had that experience where it tasted like a fresh piece of chicken tasted like it was 2 weeks old. Like it just turned south. Like it was yeah, it was bad. Anything. And it only lasted for a while. It just tasted gross. Yeah. I don't know.
Well, I'm glad your buds are back.
My buds are, I was worried. You know what? That's one that is scary. It's like that's a scary one.
The one thing that makes me happy. Tastes
like if I had to eat like that, if everything tasted like that for the rest of my life, like that's a pretty severe consequence, right? Like you're like, I don't know if you get used to that. I
mean, that does suck, but there is also people out there that are convinced the only way to prep is with like boiled fish and plain asparagus. Like there's some extreme ones out there. They don't even use seasoning or salsas. And like, I'm like, how do you do that?
That's just crazy.
So, I mean, we've got people, not here on the team, obviously, but we've seen people do like fish asparagus for like 12 weeks. Like, how do you do that? Plain fish and asparagus. Oh my God. So that's something similar. Like that's true. That's next level. You know, as much as I'm good at dieting, I guess you could say, you better believe I am seasoning the crap out of everything. I am putting condiments all over it. My chicken's drowning in sugar-free barbecue sauce, and nothing's boiled. I can tell you that. So everything's very tasty.
I remember when I was first coaching and first starting like prep, back in like 2000, we didn't have the information that we have now. So everything was like right when you start prep, you're on Mrs. Dash. That was it. No salt, Mrs. Dash only, right? So
that sounds like a crazy rebound after shows.
It was like just the way it was. Like you started 16 weeks out, Mrs. Dash, you toughened up. That was it. You get lemon and Mrs. Dash. That was it.
Oh,
isn't that wild?
That is wild.
Yeah, it was like, and it wasn't like a gradual thing. It was just such a different world now. We had no data,
Yeah, I remember it was much more hardcore whenever I first started prep. There were some people that, just ate the fish and asparagus and stuff. And I remember, I'm not going to name names, but I remember talking to this one girl and she said, for the past 12 weeks, I was just like eating fish and asparagus. And I kid you not, like she smelled like fish. And even during the time she wasn't like talking to me, because you could say, oh, well, maybe it's like on her breath. Like, no, her body just like reeked of fish. Like it just came through her pores. I'm like, oh
yeah, for you that's like the worst.
I know. I hate seafood
so much. So that's so funny. Yeah, it was crazy how it's just how it was though. It's funny is you just whatever the culture is, you just do it, right? And it's kind of like
I don't know how people were prepped. Like, gosh, we have it good. I always say, hey, what a time to prep, what a time to be alive. We've got sugar-free tasties.
Well, there was this this YouTube video I was watching the other day, and it was talking about like, the disparities between the rich and the poor and this and that. And they were giving an example of like Rockefeller and all this money he had and all these things that he had. But they said like even the bottom 10% of the world today lives better than he did back then because of he had the technology available to him, the information available, just everything that's available to them. The temperature control, the plumbing, this and that. And I was like, that is pretty crazy to think about. Like, obviously I'm taking it farther, but we all live pretty good, like
for the most part. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, it's funny. Like the only fights we get in are like on digital, like back then people were fighting for their lives, right? Like you got drafted into war. Now we're like, that guy said something about me on Instagram. You're like, who cares? Yeah. It's so funny. Yeah. We do have it good, especially in the diet world too. So, anyway, anything else you wanted to cover on this, Ashley?
Well, I think, it would be helpful to just briefly mention at least, how to combat the other things such as boredom eating and the different cravings you might have too.
Yeah.
I would say as far as like getting in your water too, because that is a big thing, getting in your water. It is harder in the wintertime for sure. Mostly because of the reasons I mentioned. You just don't want to get colder than what you already are. I've been drinking tea a lot, and I know it's still not even to where it would be in the summer, but it does help drinking tea. And sometimes I will drink like a bunch of water and then follow it with a hot tea. I've been loving like the dessert teas. I don't know if you've been savvy on the tea world.
You know what I've been killing it on lately is what's that powder that I have, the coconut one? You know it. It's like little envelopes. It's on the thing.
I don't know what the thing is.
On the refrigerator that has like coconut. You know the name of it. It starts with like a B, I think. Anyway, it's like a powdered flavored water.
Oh, Bolero.
Bolero hooked it up at the Olympia. I got like 7 boxes of 12 of each of those. So the Boleros and the Mio is the only way I can drink, my water. It's funny. I don't like plain water. I don't know.
Plain water doesn't like you either.
I don't think it does. I'm a very first world problem of me. Very, very spoiled person to say I don't
Same here.
Right?
I have to flavor it.
Yeah.
It's all flavored. I'll be drinking 2 gallons of Crystal Light a day.
It's such a plain water. I'm like, dang, you're gangster. You
so
drink plain water.
Basic.
It's like to me, it's like black coffee. I'm like, man, you drink your water plain. That's next level, bro.
So basic.
Yeah. So I'll use Mio or Bolero. But Bolero, they gave me. I bought them, but they gave me 7 boxes of 12, and they're like, yeah, just pick all the flavors you want. So I just went nuts, and I got all these crazy flavors at the Olympia. You can just pick them one by one. I got 30 different flavors from them out of the picking. And so now it's kind of makes it fun to, mix it up. But another tip was I saw, actually Savannah had it was really cool. She has this thermos, and it's like a gallon thermos. I think it looks like a gallon. It's round, so I'm not sure. But it has time on it. Like, it has her time on it.
Oh, yeah.
You seen those?
Yeah.
That's really cool. And so,
that's nice, yeah.
Yeah, so it's like if she didn't drink half of her gallon by the middle of the day, like it's a mental alert. It's like a mental awareness. Mm-hmm. Like, hey, you're 4 hours behind on a third of your water, right? And so you just catch up. So that was kind of cool. Amazon has those. It's like I don't know, what would you even call that? Like a timed water jug? I don't know. Water timer jug?
I don't know.
But anyway, it's on Amazon. It's a water jug, and it has like a timer on it. It just has like times, like 8, 11, whatever, all the way down. And that's kind of cool to keep you alert of your water intake. And then what was your other one you were saying?
One other thing too for to help get in the water too, I will see this from a personal perspective. Like since I have been drinking tea and like coffees, more hot things, decafs, I do have an electric kettle, and it's like a few liters, I think. But I will I'll turn it on, it'll heat up real quick, and throughout the day I'll just pour multiple cups of tea. So that's another way to monitor how much water you're drinking as well if you want to go the hot route. And by the way, what's funny is like in the UK when I went there, that's what got me on the tea kick like back last year. And they all have like electric kettles. It's like a staple in everyone's house. But I remember Lauren was telling me, she's like, you don't have an electric kettle at home? And I'm like, no. Should I? She's like, well, how do you like warm up your tea and coffee and stuff? I'm like, I just put it in the microwave. And they're like, ew. They were repulsed by the fact that Americans usually just put it in the microwave. They're like, ew.
The funniest story, I'm actually thinking of this funny story when you said that, because the exact same thing happened to me when Phoebe stayed over at my house the first time. So I don't know if it was her first time in the U.S. or not, but she was staying at my house back like 3 years ago in Denver. And I was at the gym, and she was at my house. It was like one of her first days, and she's like, yeah, do you have a kettle? I went through all your cabinets, I couldn't find your kettle. Right? And I was like, a kettle? Like, what?
You have a really bad UK accent.
I know, I'm trying. I should have better by now with all the UK people I work with. How does it better? Do you have a better one?
You put me on the spot.
You have a kettle. But anyway, so she like went through them all looking for it. Like, it was, because that's what it was. It's like a staple, right? Yeah. It's like it's just you have one.
It's like a spoon.
Yeah, it's like a microwave at the house. You have to have one, right? And I was like, a kettle? Like, I didn't know what a kettle was even. I never used a kettle before. Like, I've heard of it, but I didn't really know what it was, And so she's like, yeah. And I'm like, oh no, we just put it in the microwave. And she's like, that's gross. She said the exact same reaction. Like, it was so like barbaric of us to.
I will say it does taste better on the electric kettle.
Does it?
Yeah, it does. Huh. I don't know what it is, but it definitely is better.
Huh.
But I like my little electric kettle. It's fun, and it lights up blue, and it bubbles, and it's kind of handy.
I have all my European appliances now at the house, because Phoebe just ordered them all, and like she's like, whenever you move, just take these with you and store them at the house. So she has all of her UK amenities. That's pretty funny.
Nice.
Yeah. So, and then the last one we talked about, which was the
boredom eating. This is a tip. Just don't. Yeah, that's how you fix it.
Gum? You're good at the gums.
Yes, gum. But I know. Yes, gum is great because you know what? They have many flavors, sugar-free. And whether it be the minty kind or like a fruit kind or dessert kind, it definitely keeps your taste buds occupied. It keeps your jaw occupied. Like, you know what I mean? You're likely not going to want to snack or boredom eat if you're chewing on a piece of gum. And I am a gum fanatic.
You are a gum fanatic.
I'm not proud to say some days it's a 2-pack a day gum scenario. Yeah. So that's how it is. The Wrigley's 5 is my favorite. Wrigley's 5 winter mint, I think it is. No, is it acid? I don't know. It's the cobalt blue. There we go. Cobalt blue. It's my favorite. So
you're gonna get a bunch of gum sent here, I imagine, at the prep center.
I wouldn't hate it.
Yeah. I had so many. You know what's funny is on the podcast, I had so many Dutch Bros gift cards this year. It was awesome. I have like hundreds of dollars of gift cards.
Did you gift me?
No, you did get one too, though.
I'm kidding.
I got, people were sending them through email. Like I got it. Yeah, it's so nice of people. I was like, I think because I talk about I talk about Dutch Bros being like my thing. It's funny is that Dutch Bros was closed yesterday. And so me and Kimber were like, I can't believe it. Starbucks is open and Dutch Bros is closed, but we still didn't go to Starbucks. And then I went this morning and the line was way too long. So I was like super sad. So, but anyway, yeah. So thank you guys, whoever sent those. Those was really nice of you. But I guess with that, you know what? There's one more tip. I will say people have a hard time when you get boredom, it's because you're hungry. One of the things that I found that really helps a lot of people with their hunger is obviously eating your veggies. You can say, oh yeah, eat your veggies. Of course, that's a great solution, Adam, right? Who wants to eat their veggies? One of the ways I've found to make this an easier thing to do, because I'm not a big fan of eating veggies either, especially when I was personal training and I was moving from client to client, like eating veggies in between clients, it takes too long. So what I found was for me to get my 3 cups in, on my morning shake, I would just throw spinach in the morning shake, but I would throw a lot of spinach in the morning shake, like a half a bag of spinach in it. It was probably 3 cups worth of that in it. But the spinach, when you blend it, it doesn't really taste like spinach. It just shreds up really small, but it doesn't juice, So it just kind of thickens the shake a little bit and it keeps you super full for hours and hours. And it also gives you your veggies in and some of your micronutrients. So that's a good way of doing it if you're always getting really hungry, is maybe having that shake and throwing your spinach in there or your whatever lettuces in there, blending them up. And then you don't have to eat as much veggies throughout the day too if you don't want to. And it keeps you a little fuller, a little longer. So that's a good tip too. So
thanks for the tips, Coach Adam.
I like that one's a fun one. And it turns it kind of green, which is cool. I feel like the Incredible Hulk when I drink that.
My favorite color. Oh, yes, definitely the Hulk.
That's a Hulk shake. So I guess with that, guys, that'll be it for our winter woes. Winter weight gain woes. Okay, there's it.
I don't know. Should we keep the woes? It sounds so cheesy.
We'll leave it to Arthur.
Okay. Pressure's on, Arthur. It's up to you.
You better nail it, Arthur. So anyway, guys, thank you so much. Remember, tomorrow I'll be doing another one live on Instagram. If you're watching this, going over Olympia Q&A questions. So thank you, Ashley, for toughing it out for the podcast with your throat.
Oh, yeah, no problem. And thank you for existing.
Yeah.
I appreciate that. If you didn't exist, I'd be kind of bored.
Yeah, we have a lot of fun together, right?
I'd be very bored. I don't know. I'd be really bored.
We do have a lot of fun together.
Yeah.
We do.
Yeah, we do.
Quite the ride. All right, guys. I'll talk to you next time. Bye.